TSB Talk Sport Business here on Talk 100.3. The playoff will be back just after 5:30 this afternoon because sports author and sports journalist from the India Today group is on the line to join us. Nikhil Naz is one of the most highly regarded sports commentators and discuss more about everything to do with India and the Asian Cricket Championships last night. Nikhil, thank you for joining us on Talk 100.3.
Well, my pleasure. Lovely to be here.
Well, Nikhil, first up, we'll focus on the latest news that has come out, and that is India has announced its squad for ICC T20 World Cup. What do you read out of it, first up?
Well, the first thing it tells me, just looking at the team, that the Indian team hasn't panicked. So you know that they were there in Dubai playing the Asia Cup just now, and the results didn't go according to plan. They failed to make the final, which, as you'd know, the kind of expectations that you have with the Indian team not making it to the final would be looked at as a failure.
Right.
Despite that, you only see two changes in the Indian team from the team that went for the Asia Cup and the one that has been selected for the T20 World Cup. And those two are Avish, you've got Jasprit Bumrah and Harshal Patel, two of those fast bowlers that were injured and not available for selection for the Asia Cup. They make a return, and then you've got Ravi Bishnoi that goes out of the squad, and Avesh Khan. So just pretty much those two changes, which means that they want to retain the core group, and even though Asia Cup didn't go according to plan, that they're treating as a blip, and hopefully better performances at the World Cup.
Look, I really enjoyed watching Virat Kohli bats, where he was managed to make triple figures and to get that 71st international century. Do you think there's going to be pressure on him to move permanently to the top of the order?
Well, I think the pressure is off now. I think he was feeling the pressure just leading into the Asia Cup, and that was predominantly the reason why he decided to take that month and a half long break. He said that, he had started expecting a lot out of himself. He was not enjoying his game. In fact, he went on to say that he was even faking intensity, on the field. So because of which, then he took a break. And I think the kind of, runs that he scored in the Asia Cup, he got 250s and 100. I think the pressure is off. I had the pleasure of speaking to him while I was there, and I saw a different version of Virat Kohli, a much more relaxed, a much more, someone who's really reassured of himself, his ability, and I did see that, and I think that month and a half long break did a lot of good to him. He'd be without pressure, but of course, you expect a lot out of him. If India have to do well at the T20 World Cup, he needs to score run. Whether he will bat at the top of the order as an opener, that I think is going to be unlikely. I know he got that 100 batting as an opener, but most likely you will still see KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma open for India, and Virat then continue to bat at number 3.
Nikhil, Dinesh Karthik tweeted, "Dreams do come true." Definitely, yes. From doing the commentary duty in the last World Cup in England to actually being a part of the team that plays the World Cup, that's definitely something dreams are made of. But how realistic is DK's chance to get into the playing 11, considering the fact that Rishabh Pant automatically makes a selection, considering he's the only left-handed batter that we have?
No, I think that was a blunder. I think that was a blunder just to have played Rishabh for the fact that he's a left-hander batsman. And I think sometimes these sort of matchups that you see in T20 cricket are a bit overrated, that you really need a left-hander when there's a left-arm spinner on or a leg spinner on. I think that's a bit overrated. And I think the Indian team paid a price for that, because you had been grooming Dinesh Karthik as the number 7 batsman, someone who could, come and bat those 10-15 deliveries and, score at a 200 strike rate. So you groomed them for that. And what did you do when you reach Asia Cup? One, Ravindra Jadeja gets injured and your plans go haywire, and then you're forced to play a Rishabh Pant higher up the order. I think that was folly. I think that is something that the Indian team would have learned from. And going forward, most likely you will see Dinesh Karthik play the role of the finisher, even if that means Rishabh Pant sits out, because he's not been in great form. He's got a lot of opportunities, but he hasn't really made the most of it. So I think Dinesh Karthik will make it. But you're right. For him, the running joke on social media was that he was a part-time cricketer and a full-time commentator. Well, he's proving everyone wrong, whereas he's now a full-time cricketer and only a part-time commentator. So great. I met him too, by the way, and I think the reason for success behind him, when I had a little conversation with him, is primarily this, because he'd stopped expecting much out of it. He said, listen, I was enjoying the game. I thought I'll keep playing. Sure, if I make it to the T20 World Cup, great. If I don't, that's not the end of the world. And I think that is the attitude that allowed him to play the way that he was, where, he threw caution to the wind and said, okay, fine, 10-15 balls, I'll go all out. And he played those knocks that, in fact, forced the selectors to look at him.
This tournament has been a tremendous success here in the UAE, given the quick turnaround that's moved from Sri Lanka. Do you think there's any chance that you could see permanently the tournament being moved to a neutral venue or somewhere like the UAE?
That would be very unlikely. I'll tell you why. Because Asian Cricket Council is a body that's run by the executive, which means the members, and participating members want the hosting rights because there is a lot of money associated with hosting it. There are a lot of benefits to have, and usually if it's the members voting, then more often than not, members are going to vote for each other, or at least in a rotation, so that each of them gets it. It's only in situations where one of those major permanent members do not have the chance of hosting, or there is a last minute change that it goes to an alternate venue. I would find it very tough that it was to move to a neutral venue, because at the end of the day, as I said, each of those big Asian countries, cricket countries, would want to host it. Unfortunately, this time, because of the political situation in Sri Lanka, it had to be cancelled at the 11th hour. But going forward, I think next edition is in Pakistan. So I do not know what the stand right now of all cricketing board is next year, the Asia Cup, whether they would want to travel to Pakistan or not. Pakistan would show hope to be hosting it. They have been hosting international tournaments, but I'm just saying the way the situation is at the moment, especially politically between India and Pakistan, I do not know whether India would agree to go to Pakistan, in which case again you might look at a neutral venue, and then again UAE emerges as the front runner. But by and large, overall, I think it will still remain with the major members, and they would want to retain the hosting rights.
You mentioned about India wanting to travel, and obviously this is beyond the cricket boards. A lot has to be decided by the people sitting at the top in the country. But it's not just the Asia Cup. Champions Trophy also goes to Pakistan in the next FTP. There has to be we got to find a solution to all of these things, isn't it?
You're right, actually. I mean, but for that, I mean, it's beyond cricket, as in going back, from past experiences, that it is actually it involves Home Ministry and even at the level of the Prime Minister's office. So these decisions are made there.
Right.
Whether India agrees to go there or not, we don't know. But I think Champions Trophy, there could be a good chance that India travels there, because the stand that India has been taking till now, and we've been reporting on that, has been that they're okay playing Pakistan when it comes to a multinational tournament, but it's only bilateral series that they've had issues with. And when something as important as the Champions Trophy moves to a place like Pakistan, and India would want to participate, I think there could be a scenario where then the Indian team does travel and plays its games in Pakistan.
Right. Nikhil, Pakistan, we were talking about Pakistan and the Pakistan team. Where did they falter? I'm sure that you were keeping a keen eye on the finals as well. Where did they falter in the finals?
I think it's their batting that let them down, as it has throughout the tournament. If you take a look at the entire tournament, their batting really clicked in that one game against India. That was that one game where they did outstandingly well. Hong Kong, again, not reading too much into the result. And then comes the other game versus Afghanistan that they won, where once again it's their batting from a winning position, almost lost them the game.
True.
But for Naseem Shah, who comes in as a tail-ender and hits those two unexpected sixes, which took them through. So I think barring that one India game where the Pakistan team batted beautifully, batting has been a bit of a concern there. The approach of the batting and the consistency of the batting both need to be looked at. And Pakistan will after this Asia Cup, just as I mentioned for India, nothing less than a final would suffice. Similarly for Pakistan, nothing less than winning the Asia Cup would have been enough. And I can already see there's plenty of talk about Mohammad Rizwan, who may be the highest scorer, but his approach, his strike rate, and various other things that Pakistan needs to look at. Maybe it is time for them also to take a look at the kind of template that they play in T20 cricket, whether they need to change it going forward in Australia. So plenty for them to think about as well.
But you also had a situation with Babar Azam only passed 20 once in the tournament. Do you think this is a point of concern, or this is just a blip on his form?
I would like to think it's just a blip on his form, because he's too good a batsman to be out of form for very long. In fact, he's been the most consistent batsman in international cricket for the last year or so. We in India kept saying that, listen, Virat has lost form, but just look at Babar. How consistent is he in all formats, actually? And then who was to know that he'd have an Asia Cup to forget? But I would imagine that this is a blip. It's just one of those tournaments. It's not a long, extended period where he's been out of form. It's just a blip, and I think he's a good enough batsman to overcome this little blip that he's had in his career and come out much stronger. They have a 7-match T20 series, I think, against England, and I'm not even waiting for the T20 World Cup. I think you'll see him firing in that T20 series itself.
And just quickly, I know you're a busy man. Before you go, I'm not sure whether you're across this story of what's happened in the test match between England and also South Africa. Bad light has come into play again, which has caused many people to really say that the situation in regards to bad light is farcical. Are you across this situation to comment on what happened?
Unfortunately, because I was so caught up with the India selection today, I haven't had a chance to look at. So I'll refrain from making a comment unless I've actually seen what happened. But I know that it was an exciting series between the two. But unfortunately, I did not. The last 2-3 days, I haven't had the chance to follow it. So this one, I'm just going to give it a pass.
No problem.
Right. My last question to you, Nikhil, would be, I happened to meet Harbhajan Singh over the weekend. He was here for some commercial commitments. And, I was talking to him about, the prospects of the youngsters who could probably make it to the Indian side. And he said, and he's tweeted about the same, of Umran Malik. Right, he said that I'm looking forward to Umran Malik, and if he can make the side, he'll be one of the biggest assets. He's tweeted the same about a few hours back, and Umran Malik obviously does not make the cut. What are your thoughts on this youngster?
No, I think that was a bit far-fetched, because how does he suddenly then make it into the mix if he's not been playing the series leading up to it?
True.
If the team management had any inclination of having him, or they thought that he's part in the scheme of things, then he would have played a few tournaments before that.
Makes
the
sense.
fact that he didn't, and I think the take on the management as far as Umran is concerned, that they feel, yes, he's got the pace, yes, he's exciting, maybe they want him to continue, but they did give him a few chances in that tour of England. But
Right.
I think what they've really concluded, having looked at him very closely, is that maybe a bit more experience, maybe a bit more of India A tours, which he is playing, and then he'd be the finished product that they would want. So he's definitely a one to look out for in the future, but maybe not immediately for this T20 World Cup.
Well, Narshid Paivandia, we know how busy you are, so we do appreciate your time chatting all things Indian cricket and also the Asian Cricket Championship here on Talk 100.3. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, pleasure is all mine. You guys have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Thank you. There is the sports anchor, author, commentator and co-founder of Niche Sports.
In fact, he is one of the journalists at India Today Group, Nikhil Naz, that we were talking to. And I happened to meet him here at the Dubai Cricket Stadium while he was covering the sport. And what a fantastic guy, knows a lot about the game, understands the game through and through, and is very vocal about his opinions, about the sports and the men in sport.
Yeah, you're on TSB, Talk Sport Business on Talk